So, Sarah Jane, you've done marvelously on your journey. Um, but what would you say that you have achieved, or what would you say that you're most proud of thus far on your journey since the beginning?
I think reintroducing discipline to my life and eating with intention. I think, I'd spent years I love food and I just wasn't thinking about kind of what I was doing. So I think I'm most proud of the kind of mindset change
Yeah,
because so eating with intention, sleeping with intention, um, yeah, just living with intention. I think is probably the thing that I'm most proud of. The
yeah,
weight loss that resulted from that made me feel great, but it was the mindset change.
yeah, absolutely. And it has been a big change. I mean, we've obviously there's life has kind of undulates up and down at times, but like the exercise side of things, and we've talked right down to some small details about meals and what's going on the plate and things. Um, I would say intention, definitely, certainly, very deliberate kind of changes. But no, I think you've done absolutely marvelously, to be honest with you. What caused you to start the journey? What made you make that decision that right now it's time?
So there was health things going on that I was just kind of putting down to the menopause, the fact that I wasn't sleeping, I was waking up during the night, I felt kind of my whole body felt inflamed. I couldn't exercise, my shins were hurting, I was out of breath when I was doing things, and I kept thinking, this is just the menopause. It's just the menopause, and the weight loss is just the menopause. I'm not doing anything that's causing this. It's happening to me. It's not my fault. And I kind of let that kind of, I suppose I just kind of, let that go on for a while. And then basically it was photos. I started sort of seeing myself in photos and thinking, that's not me, or where am I in that kind of photo? And it kind of culminated in, so we have at my work, we do a big conference every year in the May. And I'm really comfortable public speaking. So, you've got 400, 500 people in the room. I'm really comfortable about speaking. And I walked on stage and all I could think about was how I looked. And all I could think about was, you've got press down there taking photographs. And I kind of thought, I don't like how I look anymore. I don't like how I feel. And I suddenly kind of thought, this is something that you can take control. Suddenly realized I was out,
Mhm.
I was not taking control of that in a way that I totally managed every single aspect of the rest of my life. Very disciplined when it came to work, disciplined when it came to the family, disciplined in terms of the things. And I was kidding myself that somehow I wasn't in control of my health and my weight.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I think we've had the conversation. I've had the conversation with other people as well that often in other areas of life, particularly like in the workplace, where you don't really get a say in being lazy or disorganized. Like you have to be on it and you have to be organized and you have to be disciplined. And that many of us have a work self that goes out and does that and performs it every day to a high level. But then when it comes to us being responsible for us, for health, for weight, for food choices, for taking charge of quality of sleep and things, we maybe we sort of come home and go, oh, and sort of organized, disciplined us takes the day, rest of the day off because we think of that as almost like rest from that hard work of the day.
Yeah, I think you're right. And without sounding too arrogant, I'm really successful in my kind of work life.
You absolutely
I'm,
are.
I'm very happy in my home life. So it wasn't that I was using food as a way to kind of deal with unhappiness. I just really love eating, and I really love socializing, and I really love having a drink with pals and all that kind of stuff. But when you're doing that every day without exercising and hitting 50, so those things, your body just can't cope with that anymore. But you're right, I was coming home thinking I've just not got the headspace to think about what it is that I need to do. So yes, I just kind of shoveled in whatever was there.
Yeah,
um, and yeah, so it's back to that kind of intention. It just was just living that part of my life without intention, because it felt like the rest of my life was kind of taking it all up. It
yeah,
was all being kind of used up elsewhere.
Do you think that a lot of people neglect the spending time, energy, and love on themselves because they're busy at work, looking after the family, doing all the other things in life, and they're always bottom of the priority list of who needs looked after, who needs, we need structure, we need motivation, we need some pre-planning, we need these things for us because we want to be healthy, happy, live a long time, mobile. You know, it requires some thought and effort to achieve that. Do you think many of us are guilty of neglecting our own needs because we're busy looking at the rest of the world that we're trying to sort of manage?
I don't know if it was neglecting or if I just was thinking that what I needed wasn't really what I needed.
Hmm?
So, so I'd kind of think, what is it I need? Oh, I really need a pizza, and what, because a pizza fills me with joy. Well, that's great, but I don't need, I don't need a whole one. So I don't think it was that I was kind of, I just think I was thinking that what I needed was something entirely different to what I actually did need.
Hmm.
So, but also, yeah, kind of back to the kind of the intent. I was making really easy choices. So I think it was back to, I wasn't really I just wasn't thinking about it. I wasn't thinking about
Yeah.
what do I need from a health point of view? What do I need from a weight point of view? I was just kind of thinking, what do I, what's going to be easy in terms of kind of getting me through the rest of the day, or not thinking about the consequences. So I think there was
Yeah.
a little bit of that. But yeah, I think there probably have been times in getting to kind of where I was, that I'd neglected myself in terms of work, in terms of family, in terms of doing other things because it worked for other people and I could cope with it, but
Yeah.
it maybe wasn't the best thing for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, if you had any advice for those who haven't started their journey yet, I don't mean with me, I mean in life, if they're feeling whether it's out of control or whatever it might be, would you have any advice for those people?
It's just start. I know it sounds really simple, but it's just start.
It's simple. It is.
Yeah, and I think as well, don't be put, don't let setbacks or don't let some, not going exactly the way you want it to go to kind of properly set you back. You can have a day where you don't stick to exactly rigidly what you want to do. That doesn't make you a bad person or mean that it's all ruined.
Yeah.
So I think it's about, so it's start and being kind to yourself at the all, right through the whatever stage you are at the, your journey. But yeah, start.
Yeah.
That's the only advice there is really.
Yeah. Um, and for those who have started their journey, who are on their journey and maybe are struggling from your experience on this journey, um, would you have any advice or what would you do when those
So
times come?
I think it's being honest. So kind of sticking, sort of saying, reaching out to you or to others in the group or to people you've talked about your journey and just sort of saying, look, I'm struggling a bit, and either family or friends, like it's not helping me when you offer me a drink every time I come around to see you, kind of thing, or a biscuit with my cup of tea every time I come to see you. I think the thing that I've probably not done enough is kind of take advantage of the kind of wider support. So I'm not great at doing group stuff, and I kind of think there were times when that probably would have made a difference. Looking at those people who have been able to kind of maintain or to inspire others, I've probably not taken enough advantage of that. So I think it's it's you're not on your own on the journey. So I think I'm really grateful for the relationship that we have, and how we use that. My family and friends are great. I don't think I use the
The
fantastic support,
community sort of thing.
the
Yeah.
community. I don't use that enough. So I think that's probably something I'd sort of say to people is to try and kind of use that community in any way you want, whether it's kind of just whether it's sort of more passive, looking at the recipes, looking at, or
Mhm.
just asking people for tips and advice. You don't have to be sharing or on every call, but there's things there that I kind of think. And
Yeah.
the other thing is it's probably about how everything's linked. There's no point at all in kind of being so focused on macros or
Yeah,
how many grams of protein, if you're still if you're still having wine every night, if you're still
yeah,
sitting at your desk and not getting outside, and if you're still staying up till 2 o'clock in the morning and looking at TikTok,
mm,
it won't work. So I
yeah,
think it is about kind of making sure that you've got your key bits and pieces and that you're doing your best you can in all those areas, because
yeah,
I think that when I've been frustrated and not had a couple of not had either lost or put weight on, you'll very sensibly sort of say what you've been eating, and we go through it, and you're like, that sounds okay. What else have you been doing? And then I'll start talking about the fact that I've been driving everywhere, I'm stressed at work, I've been doing this and that, and had a couple of glasses of wine. You're like, okay, food is not the problem here. So I think it's that other thing is thinking about how everything's connected, and I think as well, I think that probably links to healthy and sustainable weight loss. Because
yeah,
if it's all about the food and you basically are just massively reducing your calories and you're not changing your mindset and you're not changing other bits of your life, you'll just put weight back on again.
yeah. I don't think losing weight or what people actually want to achieve is not about depriving yourself enough to get thinner.
No.
It's it's about changing who you are so that the person that you are lives a life that sustains a certain weight, that makes you live a certain amount of time, that causes you happiness, that means that you have good relationships in your life, that you manage stress well, that you can go to bed at night and put your head on the pillow and get some sleep. Like you say, they are all one and the same. They are one thing, your life. And you can't neglect one thinking that you can get life good by trying to focus on just one aspect of it.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
and I would even go as far as to say that the area of life that we don't look at the most is the area of life that would provide the biggest benefit if we changed it for the better. I would certainly think that's the case anyway. Um, so what has been your biggest piece of learning so far? Be that about food, about life, about you, anything.
My biggest piece of learning is I'm really good at making up excuses. Um, I think that's probably something I realised early on. Strangely, I'm not as disciplined as I thought I was. I kind of thought I was quite a disciplined person. As I say, that discipline that I apply elsewhere, I just don't. That's kind of what I've struggled. I found that there are things that really motivate me are probably are more shallow than I realised. I know, and it can be about how I how I've looked in a press photograph kind of thing. So I think I realised that appearance mattered more to me than I thought. So I think that's probably something I learned. On a positive side of things, I learned that I'm I'm capable of much more than I thought. That that I think that I'm kinder to other people. Like I am my own worst critic, so I think I'm much kinder to myself. And I think what that's resulted in is that I'm generally more happy because I'm not got that kind of voice sort of saying basic the kind of the self-critical voice just has kind of been quietened quite a lot. And so I see that I think I'm more relaxed in general. So I think I'm sleeping better, I'm eating better, I'm exercising. Generally, just improves my mood and it's improved my effectiveness at work and it's just made me a nicer person. So I
Yeah,
think again, it's back to that kind of interconnected stuff. But yeah, the and I think the other thing I learned is just how important food is to my life, but also the fact that I had this idea that to lose weight, I'd have to deprive myself of something.
mhm,
And I found that just isn't the case.
yeah,
So that I can still make really intentional, healthy choices and still have the kind of the lifestyle that I want.
yeah,
You and I kind of joke sometimes that I look at certain times of the year and I've got work things, 3 course meals and this, and we'll joke sort of saying like, so how many glasses of champagne and how many canopies can I have in my healthy eating plan? I'm very fortunate that I have that, but kind of joke. But I used to be that person who thought it was rude to say no when the canopies came past you for the fifth time,
Yeah.
and now I'm quite comfortable saying absolutely not. I've had enough, and it's a strange thing, but
No, it's brilliant. And I mean, we've talked tactics on, so I'll be in this part of the country and I've got nights on this day. So what will I have in the car with me to snack? Right, I'm going to wait and I'm not going to eat then, but I'm going to eat when I get to there. And we've almost like micromanaged a week of events and travel right
yeah,
down to the where you're going to be, how far that is, when you get an opportunity to stop and eat, where you must eat, where you can get away with just having a glass of champagne but not eating a big meal at 10 o'clock at night, like all
yeah,
these things. And I think that's it's deliberate intention. Is looking at your life honestly and saying, this is what it is. Some of
yeah.
these things and what you can't avoid, work commitments and some social commitments. And so how do we manage that as best as we can? It's all being thoughtful, isn't it? Mindful and
Yeah,
deliberate.
absolutely. Because I remember sitting down, fairly early on in my journey, because I think that's what it was. I knew where I was not where I wanted to be, and I looked at what was coming out up, and I kind of felt out of control because I was kind of thinking, I've got all these things, I can't not go to them. So how do I manage them? And you were really, as you say, really good at sort of saying, well, hang on a second, you could fast over this period, you could, as you say, traveling, let's not pack the car with lots of Percy Pig fizzy tails, kind of thing, pigtails. Like so it is about being intentional. I've got to charge the car there, so go for a. So what I'll do, so I have an electric car, and what I used to do, I'll be honest, I'd park somewhere, and I'd sit and I'd have like an unhealthy whatever in my car sitting there, catching up my emails. And what I'll do now is I think, right, I've got 30 minutes, I'm going for a walk. So I'll get out, I'll go for a walk because either I'm still fasting, depending on when it is, or I've eaten for the day. I'll go and I'll try and maybe walk to somewhere I can buy a bottle of water and walk back. So it's even things like that because we've kind of thought, how can I get to the end of the day and kind of think, right, I have done the best that I could that day. That's
Yeah.
that's that. Yeah. So I think it's back to that kind of discipline. It's like, the need to apply discipline to that area of my life that I apply in most areas, that and the results that can happen, come in the back of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, do you mind if I share a little anecdote about the scales not moving for a few weeks?
No,
Do you
not so.
recall that?
Yeah.
So I think we'd spoken a couple of times over about 5, maybe just over 5 weeks, and a growing sense of frustration from you because you were walking. I think you were even carrying things while you were walking.
Yeah.
Sort of like, you were on it, micromanaging the meals, like eating times, what you're eating, and how much of it, and like so on it, and the scales would not move at all.
Yeah,
And
it was really depressing. It was getting me down, and I kept thinking,
yeah,
what am I doing wrong?
yeah. And I recall it must have been about 5 and a half weeks, and I think you were sort of jokingly pissed off, but like going mad, and I would be the same. I think that most people would have thrown in some sort of towel or picked up a pack of biscuits by then. Um, and then we sort of, in having that sort of chat of desperation, we stumbled on that you hadn't measured during that time,
Yeah.
and you hopped off the phone, I think, and went and measured, and was it 9.5 inches or 10
Yeah.
inches that you'd
Yeah.
lost in that same time?
Yeah, and it was weird because I kind of thought I should have realised this because I was wearing clothes that I couldn't get into before. My body looked different. I think that's it. I think I was kind of doing the kind of thinking, look at me. I should be a lot lighter. But I was still in that mindset that the scales were the reward. Can I put it that way? That the drop that the scales would show the results of my hard work because yeah, so I think that's what it was. And then suddenly I was like, oh, hang on a second, got all the clothes that I'd put away under my bed that I thought were too small for me. I remember saying to you, like I said, this big pile of clothes. I was like, look at this, these are all too big for me now. I can now fit into all of these. And I felt a little bit stupid, if I'm honest, but the scales for me
Yeah,
were the thing that were the sort of the sign of
They
whether,
validate your
yeah,
success.
absolutely.
And I suppose there's a lesson in that probably for everyone, that so every day you could have been excited. Every day
Yeah,
you could have been so motivated and happy, but the scales were telling you be sad. They were saying, you're hopeless, useless, your body works different, this doesn't work,
yeah,
you're a failure. Absolute nonsense. The opposite was true.
yeah.
So let's start a campaign to ban scales.
It's interesting because although you and I say that there's it's still important. What it's not the kind of the be all and end all.
Mm.
It's not the only thing, but it is. I don't know how we stop that conditioning, because it's still something that I will do. I'll be in the scales at least once a week,
Mm.
because it does, for it's especially kind of in terms of recently, when I have put a little bit of weight back on, but I checked that. So I kind of thought, this is tight, this thing. This wasn't tight before. I'm going to jump in the scales. And I thought, crap, okay, that's a bigger gain than I ever anticipated. What am I doing? And let's change this. So I think for me, they always have to be part of it, but they're not everything now.
Yeah. In theory, though, you could actually just get rid of scales. You know what a good day is, you know what a naughty day is, you know what too many of them are, and you know what tight clothes feel like.
Yeah.
So they don't,
absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, I'll keep scales. I'll keep having a wee eye on what they're saying. I'm curious. If we could take the emotion out of it,
Yeah.
and just as a measuring device of roughly where am I?
Yeah. I know, because it's in it. I try to get that kind of same feeling of accomplishment when you put something on, and it either feels looser or you can put it on for the first time. That's great. Try to get the same feeling of when you step in the scales and you look and it's a lower number. That is, as and I don't know if it's just a woman thing or like an age thing, kind of when we were brought up with the whole kind of Weight Watchers and scales everywhere, being forced to stand on scales, which is always a kind of, I don't know what the conditioning is about scales, but that feeling when you see that needle, that number go down, is it's quite it's big, and it's hard to kind of find something that replaces that, and it can
Yeah.
get addictive.
Oh yes, absolutely. And I think one of my concerns is that when you get to target, the dream is that that needle never moves, so it can't provide you joy anymore. You won't
Yeah,
get the same excitement from it staying the same.
yeah, and I think you and I have talked about this. I had interim targets, and I'm really bad for when I reach my interim target. I go, yeah, that's me, and kind of forget about the fact that it's an interim target, and there's a new interim target.
Yeah.
So I have to kind of watch that kind of feeling of, I've done this. This is all good. Forgetting that, okay, in a 10-stage journey, you've only just hit stage 1 or 2.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's quite important. But they also work for me, because I think the amount of the where I start and where I want to be. It's a long journey, both in terms of size, however you want to measure it, whether it's in inches or weight or even sort of clothes size. It's a lot, and it seemed unachievable. So those interim targets, and again, maybe a bit of advice is to set yourself small interim targets, and they don't all have to be weight loss limit. It can be, I want to make sure I hit these 10,000 steps every day, or I want to make sure I've had 8. You and I talked about red days and green days and amber days. I've had 10 green days in a row. It's setting yourself those small wins, because if not, I think it just becomes overwhelming. It's like that, that anecdote about, how do you eat an elephant kind of thing, with one bite at a time. That basically is it, because it does feel like, the elephant, and it's too much.
It's too big. Yeah.
Too much, too big. I can't do this. But you are really good at helping me sort of set those really small, ambitious but achievable targets, and I hit those. And I think once you start hitting those, it spurs you on. It was good.
Brill. Brill. So onwards and downwards then.
Onwards and inwards as well.
Onwards and inwards, that's even better. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brilliant. I think from my perspective, it's been a fabulous journey watching the changes, and I love I love when we chat and I watch something sink like a penny drops, and you're like,
Yeah,
yeah, and it's really simple. It's not like a big fancy thing,
yeah,
and it's
yeah,
sort of right, yeah, that makes and because it always makes just perfect sense. It's not like I
yeah,
say, it's not complex.
yeah,
It's just right. It's just and you have to be looking for them and willing to make some effort and willing to make some changes in you to be able to see them and to be able to change to implement them.
yeah. And I'm really grateful that, that you've made things kind of suit me as an individual, because I don't know if you, well, you probably do remember, I hate not being in control, as you know. So, our attempts at almost kind of, that sort of light hypnotherapy where I'd be like fighting to relax and fighting to it was a real insight, but you kind of recognized early on that actually made me worse. So we just kind of thought that's not working. Let's just chat through things. But I think if you've been like a really prescriptive, here are the things that you have to do, that wouldn't have worked. So I think kind of tailoring things to the individual has been really good for me.
Good, good. Yeah, I think maybe the answer would have been no. Here are the things that you have to do. No.
No, I'd have said, yeah, you're absolutely right. I'd have said, I'm not good at that. I'm not good at being told. I think I'm quite good at, working with somebody and being coached and steered and supported, but I'm not good at being told what to do.
Yeah. And I might sort of I think it's even happened in this conversation where I might say, well, maybe this is the case, and you'll say, actually, no, it's not, which is really helpful because if someone's just like a nodding dog and going,
Yeah,
okay, yeah, that's the right thing, yeah, you're right
yeah,
about that, and I'll do that, yeah, it's not an interaction. You're not actually
no,
working with you. You're just telling me what I
yeah,
want to hear. There's no benefit
yeah.
in that.
But at the same time, you challenge me when I talk crap, and when I come up with excuses. So or when I sort of say, "Oh, look at this. There's nothing I could possibly do in this eight-day period because I'm doing X, Y, and Z." You're like, "Hang on a minute. Let's have a look at that. Let's not write it all off." So I think you've been really good at kind of yeah, challenging me and not letting me away with getting away with stuff.
Brilliant, brilliant. Well, I'll continue to do that, and you continue to keep doing your thing, and we'll, yeah, I think the successes will just keep coming.
Yeah, and I think for the next interim target, I do think I need to take advantage of that kind of wider community support that we have.
Yeah.
I think that's a thing. So I have plateaued a little bit again, and so there's things that I can do, but I think yeah, I think I maybe just need to reach out to a few people as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I, last week's workshop was on stress management.
I know. Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
I saw
So,
that. I was too busy to go to it.
exactly. Yeah. Too busy doing stressful things. Yeah. Of course, the recording is there, but yeah, no, obviously I'm joking, but that there will keep being various things about various things on, whether it's food stuff or sleep stuff or stress stuff or, and even if you don't get a chance to come along, but possibly watching them back of an evening, if you're just relaxing on the sofa sort of thing, I'd like to think they would help.
Yeah, and I think sometimes again about being honest with yourself. I think I maybe need to get back into the habit of so recording what I'm eating,
Mm-hmm.
making sure I'm kind of checking in about sort of 6 o'clock at night to kind of think, right, okay, where are you in terms of this? Where are you in terms of exercise? So I think I just need to get a bit more disciplined in terms of that again. So because although I'm kind of eating with intent and choosing things, I think I'm probably doing that for everything I eat
Mm-hmm.
rather than looking at for the entire
Yeah.
day.
I think because when you're in the zone, you're very much in the zone. I think
Yeah,
due to the nature of life or children or work or all these things, you can't get a handle on them. And then that's that handle on them for life. Life, because work has busier times and then quieter times, and then something unexpected happens, and same with the kids. And so life has a tendency to bump its way to the top of the priority list, even when we've got it in a nice like life at a nice balance, and you're prioritizing meal planning or getting your exercise in or spending time outside or early nights. And then it is the nature of life for life to take over again sometimes.
Yeah.
And so it's not really about always having it in complete control, but maybe just as early as possible when you recognize that it isn't, just be like, right, oh yeah, realign and go again. We all have to do that, I think, all the time. Or we choose to just close our eyes and pretend it's not happening. But that's when we end up at the weight or the health that we don't want to have.
Yeah, that's exactly how I ended up kind of where I was, as you say, because I was just kind of, just
doing away.
Yeah, doing away and choosing to ignore the kind of signs. I was just like buying a bigger size of clothes or just yeah. It's back to excuses again. I think it's back to excuses, and not feeling. There are times when I can't control everything, and rather than saying that, well, that's it, I can't do this. It's like, well, what can I control? What can I act with intention? And and whether that's upping the exercise on those kind of days, or just kind of changing the routine or changing your eating window. Yeah, there's things that you can do every single day.
Yeah. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you so much for sharing a bit about your journey and what you've learned and maybe some struggles that you've had and stuff. I think it's really useful for people to see, rather than me telling people what weight loss with Edward is, hearing it from people who are living and walking it. I never even mind weight loss with Edward, their journey in life, what it looks like and feels like to take up the mantle of life and say, I'm going to work on making this better. So thank you for sharing that.
Well, thanks for your support. I think it's one of those things that I think when you have we have a good relationship, when you have that connection, you have that support, it makes a difference. I don't think I could not have done this on my own. I really don't think I could have done it on my own. So thanks.
I think there's nothing wrong with some support. I'm not sure that any of us or many of us could possibly get through life and make life how we would like it to be without support.
Yeah.
So, again, thank you. And
no problem.
And we shall speak soon.
Grand. Right. Thank you for everything. Speak to you soon.
Take care. See ya. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye.